The Tenderloin and sort of Market Street right off the Tenderloin were a place where there were a lot of movie houses that had existed late 1960s, 1970s that had closed down, or they had run sort of very low-end grindhouse kind of cinema. It was a place where what was called vice was tolerated.
Tenderloin was scarier than you can imagine. It was really scary. There was the scariest bar I ever went into in my life. They're called the Trap, and it was a trap. You went in, you didn't come out. It was not a gay bar. I didn't know what it was. It was psychopaths and criminals, basically.
The Tenderloin's always been a colorful place. And it was quite busy, lots of people. It wasn't quite so many street people as it is now. And the whole front of the theater was glass front before Alex remodeled it. So I had the best show in town. It was like a soap opera going on up there. And the hookers would come in, or the she-males would come in, take a break from hanging out on the corner.
The sexual scene, there were hustlers in front of Flag Brothers. That was the best hustlers. I remember just looking at them. You know, Market Street was hustlers.
We advertised in the Chronicle, and then we advertised in the Berkeley Barb. And we had every hippie girl there was made a movie.
So I just went out in the streets and picked them up in bars and cable cars and walking and baseball fields. I just went out and picked them up. And, you know, once you pick up a guy, you know, you never know what's going to happen. Is it going to be sex or is it going to be no? Most of the time it was yes.
You always want to think of money first as being a reason why guys wanted to be in movies. But I also think that the best models were the exhibitionists.
It was really in San Francisco that the transition to a more explicit kind of sexual expression began to happen. They began to make movies which were first called beaver movies, which were just showing the pubic area. Then there were split beavers in which the legs were open and you could see into the vagina. And then very soon that bored people and they began to actually do penetration. But it happened in 1969 and it happened in San Francisco.
There was an article in the newspaper about legalization of pornography in Denmark, and they were going to have this big, I guess, expo or whatever. And Paul Gerber, who also made movies, came in, and he goes, look at here, now. And he goes, wow, I'd really like to go. And Alex said, let's go. And the next week, there we're gone.
Terenzi's Pornography in Denmark was a very important movie in this whole battle for sexually explicit film. In part because it pretended to be a documentary.
It was a documentary, and it was boring, basically. And that's how hardcore, actually penetration, which is what they said hardcore was, heterosexual, became legal through a documentary, because it had to be socially redeeming. But pornography in Denmark is the one that changed the laws when everything fell, because it passed as being socially redeeming and having penetration in it.
This is the studio of Mercure Film, located in a 4-story building in Copenhagen's downtown shopping district. Mercure is an efficient operation. The cameraman shoots an 8mm film and also takes still pictures. These will be sold as picture sets in black and white or color, and also used in pornographic magazines. The typical Mercure film is 200 feet long and runs about 10 minutes. The girl who will star in this shooting session is in her early 20s.
Almost instantaneously, the minute that San Francisco began to show hardcore, everyone in the country felt compelled to show hardcore movies as well in the theaters. Lots of movies were stopped in the middle of making in order to reshoot or go back and add in, even if necessarily they weren't the same people, add in a sexually explicit thing.
It just blossomed, you know, sex sells. It just blossomed overnight.
In New York, I used to go there. We had maybe 8 theaters, you know, 1 gay theater, and then all of a sudden you had 10 gay theaters and 100 theaters. You know, the same thing happened here in San Francisco. There were theaters all over the city.
I used to go to those theaters. I mean, I saw LA Plays itself. I went to the Park Miller in LA. I went in the 55th Street Playhouse in New York. I went to all those things. I followed it. And Variety reported it too. That's the one thing. Variety tracked the porn business in the beginning completely like a business. No one else wrote about it.
This was sexual liberation going on. The gay male identity was being formed, and they were making movies of these people. People had sex behind the screen, and then they showed the movies.
We weren't making films so people say, oh, they're having good sex, or they're showing how sex should be done. We were making it because we enjoyed it, we loved it, and that's what we like doing.
It was kind of an underground industry. It was kind of fun. We all felt like we were doing something naughty.
It was a tremendous amount of money. Tremendous amount of money. But it was fun. I found it fun.
It was the best time of my life. It was non-stop action. 1969 to about 71, 72. It was just a few years.
The Supreme Court